welcome to this edition of Inside the Academy Studio.
Today's conversation will be about the best and worst of television in 2013. We know we are more commonly used to critiquing movies and the Academy Awards, but our annual best and worst of list this year will also take the form of podcast. Just setting some ground rules. Each of us, the two co-hosts, will select 10 best of shows and 5 worst of shows, and as many honorable mentions as we want. The only criteria were that there couldn't be any news or sports programming. Variety programming is included, and you would have to watch 3 episodes in that calendar season. So from January 1, 2013 to December 31st, 2013. So if you're ready, let's get started with this edition of Inside the Academy Studio, the worst and the best of TV 2013. Okay, we'll start with the worst of list. Television often can be very bipolar and transient and changing every year. So I'm going to start with my co-host, who's going to provide his honorable mentions in the worst of.
I think you mean dishonorable. Anyway. I think my dishonorables, they're more like call-outs, I would say. I don't really hate these shows. I probably hate this first one I'm going to mention. I really, really, really don't like Big Brother this year. It doesn't really qualify for a list, and I just want to get that out of the way. It was probably the worst television I watched this year. Nothing appealing about it whatsoever. And then my next show is Revenge. Revenge only reason I'm putting in dishonorable is because January to May, I didn't really like the show that much. Then it went on summer break, and then it just restarted the show again. So I'm liking the new direction. So that's why it misses out on the worst of list. And then the last one is, I think, breaks all the rules with sports entertainment. I'm going to go with WWE all programming after August. It was absolutely putrid. I didn't even feel like stealing the shows anymore. I honestly did not want to watch them, and I didn't. So it just shows how poor the product has been booked. Just a little side note for all you guys out there.
Thanks. My dishonorable mentions. I'm going to also start off with Big Brother. Surprising, last year it was in my honorable mentions, but I like all reality. This was a very terrible season. Hopefully, it will rebound. Once again, on my dishonorable mentions is Girls. It's a show that has really good elements to it, but it really never clicks in my head. So season 3, hopefully, I'll give it another shot. Another dishonorable mention is House of Lies, which is basically an entourage-esque show for this decade. Once again, I think a lot didn't change in season 2, and that kind of got tiresome, so hopefully looking for some big shifts. Another dishonorable mention in my last is Amazing Race Canada. So for anybody north of the border, the first edition of Amazing Race Canada. First of all, I didn't like the premise of staying in Canada, and secondly, I felt it was really watered down in the tasks they were doing, and many of the drama was, manufactured to non-existent. But it was really good to see Joanne and Body Break. Okay, moving on to number 5 of our worst of TV list.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, the number 5 spot on my worst of list is usually a show I'm calling out. And this year I'm going to call out Once Upon a Time. Unlike Revenge, Once Upon a Time didn't have really a strong end to their their spring season, and then they came back and it was probably worse in fall. And it seems like they're rebooting the show again, so that's a good sign. We'll see how it comes back in March. But it just really, really, really dragged this whole Peter Pan story. I didn't really know why Peter Pan's a bad guy and Captain Hook's still kind of a bad guy. I don't know, whatever. I was kind of confused with all that.
Yeah, it was definitely a little risk they took, just going away from Storybrooke and centering it all in one area. My number 5 worst of show is also an ABC show, and it's a show that started, I felt, okay, but ended this year in the spring season really, really not where I wanted to, and really I dropped it in September, and that show's Nashville. It has such great talent. Connie Britton, you could watch her on TV all the time, but by the end it became too soapy without enough character moments for me to stay attached. So my number 5 is Nashville. My number 4 worst of list is Magic City. I had this on the list last year. I'm actually only halfway through the season so far, but it does qualify for the 3 episodes I've seen. Once again, it's almost like a period piece ripoff. It gets the settings right, but it doesn't get any of the motivations, the plot lines, the characters. It's a really clunky show that did meet the cancellation bear this year. So Magic City is my number 4.
And my number 4 is Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's like bad in like kind of the forgettable way. Everything about the show just feels very, very, very bland. The characters, the sets seem like they're made out of cardboard, and you really have no impetus to watch this show week to week. It feels like there are elements here that they touch upon like once or twice. Like I'm really interested in like, okay, S.H.I.E.L.D. is now an international CIA. Those are some major political ramifications in the superhero world, and obviously the Avengers movies wouldn't be able to cover that. And a TV show would be a great platform to go down that road, but they never do. Instead, they keep it strict on a case by case of the week episode, and it really, really makes it feel even more bland. And then my number 3 on my worst of list is The Following. The Following, you kind of knew from the pilot it was going to be a bad show, but then the reason it doesn't reach the top, even though it's probably the worst made show on my worst of list, is because it still gave you laughs. I mean, it was so ridiculously over the top. How comical they made these horror-like or thrillers they think they're making. It still got a few laughs at me, even as the season dragged on. But yeah, so that's why I'm putting Following at number 3.
My number 3 is a CBS show, but not the show you think. It's How I Met Your Mother, and it's really sad to see it on this list once again. It's a show that's in its final season now, and it's still stuck in making characters and relationships that nobody should care about, and making character flaws into character. No, they've been around all the time. It's a show that hopefully, when it ends this year in 2014, it ends with some grace. But it's sad to see the state of How I Met Your Mother at the moment. Okay, my number 2 show on the list was my co-host number 3 show on the list. It's Fox's The Following. A lot of praise and a lot of hype for the show. Not praise, maybe. With Kevin Bacon and a limited series event. But beyond that, it was bland. We didn't really find out much about Kevin Bacon. If you were an Edgar Allan Poe fan going in, you're probably not one coming out. And I definitely will not be catching this in season 2.
And my number 2 show is my co-host number 3 show, How I Met Your Mother. This one made me angry watching every week. I mean, Robin and Barney are possibly the worst television couple in history. Mainly because of Barney. Honestly, I honestly hope Barney just goes away. If Barney's not in these returning episodes, I wouldn't care. On top of that, the only one silver lining, and because we haven't seen much of her, is the actual mother. The mother is actually very likable, which is surprising considering how much hype they put upon her, right? So, other than that, but then the main characters are just all terrible now.
I wonder if the liking part is just the fact that she's in so little episodes, right? We don't have the time to hate her yet. Okay, your number 1 worst of 2013.
Under the Dome. Under a Dome, also a limited television series. I think there's a trend here. There was Under a Dome right away. It just started really bad. I think I probably only kept watching it because it was summer. It just there's a dome that comes up, and at one point nobody cares. Like you see an episode where it's a Fight Club inside a dome. Like, why is there an episode for that in a limited series event?
My number 1 worst of is also Under the Dome. The premise, based on Stephen King, you always want to check it out, but I agree with my co-host. A lot of really, really terrible plots in this. Characters that have very little motivation to survive, right? Where are they getting food? Where are they getting water? They don't care about that stuff. They care about sci-fi fiction. They care about political ramifications from smuggling propane. A lot of wasted talent, a lot of wasted screen time, and I will absolutely will not be watching this limited series event fake itself into a season 2. Okay, moving on to the best of. And I will start off with my honorable mentions for the best of 2013. First off, I have Hello Ladies by Stephen Merchant, who's most famously known for creating The Office with Ricky Gervais. This show kind of grew on me. It's kind of what I want House of Lies to be, that the LA setting with the awkwardness. It was quite funny and something that I grew attached to. Number 2 was Arrow. I think Arrow's end of season 1 and beginning of season 2 are very solid. It's a superhero show that works within the budget and but still gives a lot to the DC diehards. Number 3 was the satisfying conclusion to Spartacus with War of the Damned. Some of the most emotional scenes I saw all year was in this action-packed show. And the tenderness of it really caught me. Number 4 was, once again, canceled this season, but Happy Endings. The group of 5... is it 5? No, it's group of 6. Characters, they're just extraordinary together. Their interplay was amazing. Whether it was improvised, whether it was scripted, I could spend a lot of time with those characters, and I was sad to see them go. And another one was a first season show, Cinemax's Banshee. Something I had very low expectations to. It became this weird, pulpy show with a lot of graphic violence, but obviously something that kept you mesmerized. And my final honorable mention is a Canadian show, a comedy, a drama, hard rock medical set in Northern Ontario. Was a very favorable and very interesting treat of a show. I think it's finding its footing, but it was definitely worthy of getting a mention here, just for the fact that people, if you want to check it out, Hard Rock Medical.
Yeah, I'm gonna also start my honorable mentions with Hard Rock Medical. I mean, it's really, really, it's really nice to see an Ontario-made show. Ontario being in Canada, which is a problem. Well, we'll say that's a province that Toronto's in for our outside listeners. It's that's the first one you've seen in probably 10 years, so it's just nice seeing that show made, and it's actually made pretty well. Probably not well enough to be in the best of yet, but it was a promising start, and I think it will develop a lot of good talent into Canada and Ontario, of course. My other honorable mentions include Awkward. Awkward is a show that is funnier than it should be, better than it should be, and it's a show that I should probably hate, but I still like, so that's why it's an honorable mention. And then another honorable mention I have is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a show that I really found to like the characters in. Not every episode is a home run, but it could get there at one point. And then I'm also going to mention Graceland. Graceland is a show it's another show like I probably wouldn't have liked it, but it surprised me and I ended up liking it. So end of story, and it ends up on my honorable mentions. And I'm also going to throw a couple of quick shout-outs to a reality television show known as Who Done It. Who Done It is a show that kind of almost made up. Actually, probably didn't, because Big Brother was terrible. How much fun reality show TV could actually be during the summer. I mean, you had great characters within the reality show, like Cam. Had a lot of fun this year. And then I'm going to also shout out to the return of Whose Line Is Anyway, one of the finest sketch comedy shows we have on television. All right, and we're going to start off our number 10. Number 10 on my best of list, I'm going to go with Suits. Suits is a show that, I think it ended season 2 pretty strong, and I think it got back into season 3 pretty strong, so Suits stays on my list.
Okay, my number 10 is Community. Season 4 of Community, a lot of controversy, Dan Harmon leaving, new producers. Some of the episodes were misses, but there's a lot of great moments in this series still. Once again, I'm a character person, if you don't know me. And I think these characters and these actors, when they were given things that were worthy, when they were not given things that were necessarily worthy, they still made the best of it. So I always consider Community a great half hour of television, And this year, it's my 10th best show of 2013. Okay, number 9 is a BBC America show, a Canadian import, something that sold me by a promo featuring a passenger train service. It's Orphan Black, and it's a show that, the premise, it's predictable, but the fact that it works is credit to the show. Tatiana Maslany playing 5-6 different characters, making them so distinguishable from each other, is maybe the best piece of acting I've seen all season. There's some great plot twists. The story keeps moving. It's brisk. 13 episodes or 12 episodes moved along really well. So number 9 is Orphan Black.
Number 9 on my list is your number 10 show, Community. Community, I think people just automatically want to come in and really and not like the season. I think if you just throw Dan Harmon's name on it, I think people still wouldn't like as much as seasons 2 or 3 or 2, but they wouldn't come out with this vitriol that they came out with. I haven't pronounced that word right. Is it pronounced vitriol?
Vitriol, maybe?
Vitriol. That makes more sense. But yeah, I still liked it. It was some not even just good funny moments, but yeah, like great character moments, like when Jeff has a revelation with his father. And then my number 8 show. This is a big surprise to me how much it shot up in my rankings, but I think it's because of how it ended, and I think an ending can heal all wounds. And I'm gonna say The Office. The Office had a really, really touching and good ending to finish off its run after many years, and really reminded me of why I liked it all these years.
Okay. My number 8 show is an HBO show, Veep. This season had some fantastic storylines, I felt. The speculation on the presidency, whether Selena Meyer would run, and all the consequences that it left all the supporting characters. It's so sharply written still. Armando Iannucci, his words, the way he puts swear words into shows is still fantastic. And Veep, I thought, was stronger in Season 2 than it was in Season 1. Okay, my number 7 show is going to be missed by me. It's ABC Family's Bunheads. Bunheads, I think, got stronger when it came back this season. The blonde Bunhead maybe stole the show, where the first part was about Boo and her story. Sutton Foster, I know she's heading back to Broadway, but I hope she returns to TV. I hope Amy Sherman Palladino comes back again. I'm going to miss Bunheads, my number 7 show.
Wait, so...
Sorry, number 7 show.
Yeah, number 7. So that's why you were hyped for Sutton Foster at the Kennedy Center Honors?
Yes, I was. It's always good to see Sutton Foster.
Okay. Well, now we know who Sutton Foster is. Maybe I'll go to Broadway one day. Actually, this year probably. Anyway, so my number 6 show... No, actually, no, I'm at number 7, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, my number 7 show is, my co-host already mentioned as an honorable mention, Happy Endings, great characters, an amazing collection of talent, and they utilize their talent well. I mean, people don't usually think of Lisa Cuthbert as a great comedic actress, but they make her work. And they use her abilities to the best in the show, and I'm really going to miss it. And then the number 6 show on my list, also mentioned by my co-host previously, I'm going to go with Arrow. I'm a bit of more of a superhero fan than my co-host, and I'm really liking the direction that Arrow is taking. It's planting seeds, just like I saw Batman the Animated Series plant seeds, so that it's not limiting itself, but it's not selling itself out. If that makes sense, like it's introduce a character such as the Flash in a way that, okay, the Flash can exist in this universe and have his own adventures, while Arrow can also have his own adventures, and it doesn't feel crowded at the same time.
Okay, my number 6 show is AMC's Mad Men. As Mad Men moves through the 60s, Don Draper and his crew obviously have to encounter different, a grown-up culture or a changing culture, but I think the better parts of the show this year were the office dynamics. There was a big event in the office. More characters were introduced, and the dynamics with that, and the ending and the direction that sent it with, including James Woke being introduced. He was a pleasant sight. So Mad Men, after these years, is still a fantastic show, and my number 6 this year. Okay, number 5 is the sketch comedy Key and Peele, which premiered its third season this fall. Some of the best comedy on race, on just fact of, friendship, on bros. It just really hits a lot of high notes in a lot of sketches it does. The two ushers, who are fans of movie stars to the highest degree, the East-West football game, some of the great commentary they have on other subjects. It's fun. These two guys enjoy each other. Number 5 for me is Key and Peele.
And number 5 with me, I'm going across the pond. I'm going with Broadchurch. Broadchurch was an 8-episode limited series, if you want to call it that. It's really just about one murder of Danny Latimer, and it's a basic premise, but it really keeps your attention well because of how well it's shot, how well the acting is, and how well pretty much all comes together at the end. And then, wait, am I doing number 4?
Yes, you are.
Okay. My number 4 show, I'm going to go with what was also previously mentioned. I'm going to go with Orphan Black. Orphan Black is a show that, like I've mentioned a lot before, it's a show that probably shouldn't have worked. I came in with very, very low expectations. I only watched it because I'm like, hey, I recognize some of those places in that commercial. But then Tatiana Maslany came out, stole the show right away. And then even the plot didn't really succumb to certain cliches. Like how her person is a cop, but that doesn't become the crutch of the show that, okay, we're going to have a case of the week every week. But sometimes we'll talk about this clone stuff, right? So it really doesn't limit itself. It really tries to go outside of this box and be a better show.
Okay. My number 4 show this year, and my best of list, is NBC's Parenthood. Parenthood has maybe the biggest cast on television, but the fact it has such a big cast means it has such great characters. Those characters are living ordinary lives, they're living extraordinary lives, but they're living the lives in relationship with each other and what those consequences are. This season we had a stand-up performance ending for Monica Potter with some great breakouts by characters, obviously, like Mae Whitman. Mae Whitman, again, was extraordinary. Her storyline with Amber and Ryan. I think it was a show that keeps giving me more and more. You might not like every aspect of the show, but it still has such shine on it that it's such an inviting show that Parenthood is my number 4 show of the year. My number 3 show is The Good Wife. CBS's courtroom drama, legal drama, I think hit its high notes this season. It's probably the best it's ever been, and I've liked the show since it began. The stuff with the merger falling apart, the break-off with Alicia Florrick and Keriagos, that 20-minute sequence when everything hits the fan, as they said, was brilliant TV. And I really look forward to what Good Wife is going to bring in 2014.
So you pretty much covered my next 2 ones I'm going to cover right away. At number 3, I had Parenthood for a lot of the same reasons you mentioned. Really great characters, really good acting, and even when it's like the best part of Parenthood is like even when they step away from the main storylines for a bit and just give you a good self-contained episode, it really does work. Like a storyline for one episode really keeps your attention and really just entertains you. And at the end of the day, that's all you want from TV. And then at number 2, I had Good Wife. Good Wife is a show that ended its second season really well, and then it took off in season 3. Even not second season. I mean, it's spring season better. Let me clarify that. And then it took off in the fall. Like you mentioned, when Hits a Fan is probably one of my favorite episodes of any show this season.
Okay, my number 2 show this year is HBO's Game of Thrones. Such an enormous task for Benioff and Weiss this year in taking book 3 that's filled with tons of important events and actually cutting it in half. But they still made a captivating narrative, the introduction and expansion of Marjorie Tyrell, really infused King's Landing. You had fantastic set pieces, the Red Wedding, when Daenerys gets, that power or seizes the power she rightfully deserves. Game of Thrones is, I think, maybe one of the most difficult tasks to put on television, but they do it extremely well, and this year it's my number 2 show. So my number 1 show this year is my co-host number 5 show. It is BBC America's Broadchurch. Like you said before, I don't think it mattered how it ended. It's how we got there. I think the 8-part series was visually stunning. It always had a distinct style. The twists were measured. The characters and the performances were fantastic. Danny Latimer's family was fantastic. Olivia Colman and David Tennant as the 2 DCs were fantastic. And Broadchurch really, had the advantage maybe of being an 8-part episode, an 8-part series, but it brought things together so well that at the end I didn't care who killed Danny Latimer. I cared that I had seen the process and the journey that it took to reveal it.
Now we have to look forward to the American version coming out this year, right? Is it in fall?
Yep, David Tennant will be back for that. I don't know when it's coming out, but he'll be part of that.
You think he'll have an American accent?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And then my number 1 show is Game of Thrones. Season 3. Season 3 really built upon what he had. So it's a show that somehow found a way to improve in my mind. And even some episodes with storylines that may be considered otherwise bottle episodes on other shows, they still make it work. Such as an episode where Jon Snow and Ygritte and the other wildlings have to climb a giant ice wall. They keep that thrilling, captivating, and really works within a nice 10-episode season.
Okay, that's it, folks. You may not agree with the entire list, partly because we may not have watched your favorite shows this year.
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, Orphan. No, not Orphan. Orange is the New Black. But
mainly Breaking Bad.
Okay. So if we get to Breaking Bad, we'll put it on the list. Hopefully, potentially, maybe. But thank you for listening to this edition of Inside the Academy Studio, the best and worst of television in 2013.